we alive. From the mountains to the coast, we gon' bring that fire. In the heart of college football, we the ones they admire. Yo, it's game day, stadium packed, feel that rush. From Boise to App State, man, we never hush. Rocking the colors, yeah, we bleed that pride. Cinderella stories, watch our dreams collide. Late nights, bright lights, we grind every play. Underrated talent, we gon' make them say, who's that team when we come to town? Representing for the schools that wear the crown. We in the G5, high, buzzing loud, we thrive. Underdogs rising up, taking shots, we alive. From the mountains to the coast, we gon' bring that fire. In the heart of college football, we the ones they admire. Yo, it's game day, stadium packed, feel that rush. From Boise to App State, man, we never hush. Rocking the colors, yeah, we bleed that pride. Cinderella stories, watch our dreams collide. Late nights, bright lights, we grind every play. Underrated talent, we gon' make them say, who's that team when we come to town? Representing for the schools that wear the crown. We in the G5, high, buzzing loud, we thrive. Underdogs rising up, taking shots, we alive. From the mountains to the coast, we gon' bring that fire. In the heart of college football, we the ones they admire. We the ones they are. The ones they can't skip. Fighting for respect, it's a tough road ahead. But we pack that heart and we never dread. Late hits and big plays, we bring in the heat. Watch out for the G5, we can't be beat. From the MAC to the Sun Belt, we don't back down. In this football jungle, we wear the crown. All the doubt is sleeping, but we making noise. In the G5 Hive, we the realest boys. When the clock's ticking down, we the ones to believe. One play, one chance, we gon' make them achieve. From the sidelines to the end zone, hear that roar. In the G5 Hive, we always wanting more. We in the G5 Hive, buzzing loud, we thrive. Underdogs rising up, taking shots, we alive. From the mountains to the coast, we gon' bring that fire. In the heart of college football, we the ones they admire. So raise your flags high, let them wave in the air. In the G5 Hive, we the squad that's rare. With heart and grit, we rewriting the script. In the world of college football, we the ones they can't skip. Yeah.
Forward, gets out of a tackle, now turns on the Jets, up to the 30, the 20, 10, 5, Torrey Horton back to the end zone.
48-yard play, guess who? Body, up the middle, making another move to the outside, 15, 10, end zone again.
Keeps it, nice move by Brown, he's got space, he's got 6. 35-yard touchdown for Byron Brown, a record-setting night for the South Florida quarterback.
Down so far, a little bit of a high snap. Genty right up the middle. Genty has room. Ashton Genty, give him 6.
Second and long. Lagar tries to fit it in. Runnels, it does. Runnels stays up. The show's off his 4-3 wheels. Incredible effort for Runnels.
The G5 Hive. All G5, all the time.
Welcome to the G5 Hive Live. We're a little bit earlier on this Monday. Christmas vacation. Got some stuff that popped up in the evening. So we're moving it up just a little bit. We are excited to bring you the G5 college football coverage that you love each and every week. I am Luke, and I am joined by my co-host, Justice. If you're watching us on YouTube, please hit that like and subscribe button. If you're watching us on X, please give us a follow, a like, a retweet. And if you're listening to us in podcast form, please rate and review. The G5 Hive merchandise store is now live. Link in the YouTube comments as well as pinned on our X page and at the bottom of the screen. You might notice G5 Hive podcast. Luke, why are you wearing an Iowa Hawkeyes sweatshirt? If you're just tuning into us, I do live in Iowa. There are no G5 teams here. So I am a Hawkeye, but I love the G5. So it is their bowl game today. They've got Mizzou, so I am repping some Hawkeye gear today. Get over it. For all of our audio listeners, I'm sorry you can't see this. If you want to tune into our YouTube video. But Justice, Christmas is over. Maybe there's a couple Christmases still yet to wrap up. How are we doing?
I'm doing great, man. I got the new college. Well, it's not new anymore, I guess, but it came out in September. But I had to upgrade my gaming system, and so I did that for my birthday. I got a PlayStation 5, and then for Christmas, I got the College Football 25 game. So I've been playing that a lot the last several days.
You finished the season.
I just finished my first season. Old Dominion won the national championship.
So which team were you? If Old Dominion won the national championship, what team were you?
Old Dominion.
Oh, okay. I figured you were going to be East Carolina because I know you are a big ECU fan.
Yeah, Old Dominion won the national championship. I had two players, number 1 and 2 in the Heisman, and neither one of them was an offensive player. They were both defensive players. So
Wow.
I thought that was kind of different and unique. They both had a lot of sacks. It was Jason Henderson and Koa Nautaloa, both linebackers. The guy, I don't know, like have you had a chance to play the game, Luke? Or
Nope. Don't have a console. Haven't played the game.
it's fun. It's fun. I feel like they got a lot of things right. One thing they didn't quite get right is Old Dominion's defense, because they have both Koa and Jason Henderson as outside linebackers, and they both play middle linebacker. But that's pretty minor, I think, in the big scheme of things. It's a fun game. If you haven't played it, I encourage you guys to get it. I've played the Dynasty mode. I enjoy playing around with the different playbooks. Some playbooks I find are much easier to utilize than others. Running the ball to me is a lot easier than trying to pass the ball around the yard, so to speak. But yeah, it's a fun game. Entering year 2, Dynasty. It's a fun time. I have a PlayStation 5. They have it available for Xbox as well. I'm a PlayStation guy. I also got Madden. I haven't played Madden yet. Been kind of focusing on the college football 25 game. So yeah, if you wanna play a game, hit me up in my DMs at justice_2318 on X. Be glad to play you online. I haven't played an online game yet. I haven't joined any online dynasties or anything like that yet. Just kind of been playing against the computer, trying to get my feet wet and understanding how to play the game. I've been playing the NCAA College Football 14 on my PlayStation 3 on and off since the game came out. But yeah. Well, while Luke's away, we're gonna go ahead and get started with some news and notes, and we'll come back to our players of the week. So first, we'll give talk about some coaching news. App State is expected to hire DJ Smith as its next defensive coordinator. DJ Smith has been the Missouri's co-defensive coordinator and linebackers coach. He was also previously at App State from 2017 to 2019. I would expect that announcement to come out after Missouri's game against Iowa today. Tulsa is hiring Brad Robbins as their offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach. Brad Robbins was the quarterback coach and passing game coordinator for the UConn Huskies this past season. They just had their bowl game on Saturday. FIU is hiring Nick Coleman as its offensive coordinator. Coleman was UAB's quarterback coach previously. And Fresno State is hiring Nick Benedetto as its defensive coordinator. Benedetto was the Northern Illinois defensive coordinator. Couple other things or 2-3 other things I guess today that I saw that are kind of interesting. So, the transfer portal. We'll talk about players sometime in January once everyone's entered and folks have their destinations for the most part kind of decided. But the portal window actually is closed. However, it's not like entirely true. It's just generally closed because teams that have not played their bowl game yet, those players have up until 5 days after the bowl game. So, like, for instance, Liberty and Buffalo don't play till Saturday. They have 5 days past that in order to enter the transfer portal. And then, of course, the teams in the playoffs have even a longer window, like depending on whenever their last game played is. So I think it's 5 days from the last game played. And, of course, we could see some unexpected coaches firings, which opens up windows, which causes a chain reaction. We saw this last year with Nick Saban in Alabama. And you saw like a tidal wave of repercussions throughout college football as head coaches got shuffled around with that late announcement from Saban. Once a coach is fired or leaves for another school, that opens up a 30-day window for that program's players to enter the transfer portal. So today, interesting tweet from head coach Jim Mora, UConn head coach, and he was talking about NIL and tampering, and basically said, "Hey, you guys out there like calling the UConn players like when they're not officially in the portal, that's tampering and that's against NCAA rules, and we're gonna call you out on it." Kind of interesting. I mean, it's cool to see him take that stance, for sure. It's been happening. It's been happening for years, right? And the NCAA has done absolutely zero about it.
Unless you leave a McDonald's bag full of money somewhere. That's about the only time. But
now that's legal. That's legal now.
But like I don't think it matters because we had another G5 coach do this 2 years ago, 2 years ago, I think, or so. But that was UAB head coach Dilford. He was like, he's on ESPN with all of his buddies and saying like, "Hey, this is going to happen and we're going to expose you," and nothing really came of that. And if anything, like he had quite the platform to do that as he like just was coming back from ESPN and all of that. And I get it, Jim Mora's been in the NFL and stuff, but I don't think I just don't think he's going to have the pull that anybody else would.
I just don't think the NCAA is going to do anything about it, regardless of how much publicity. I mean, look what it happened to Pitt with Jordan Addison and USC, right? Like, and it went through the news cycle and everything. But did the NCAA do anything? Absolutely not. I don't. Hey, kudos to Jim Mora. I hope he does. I hope he puts the receipts out there and says, so and so, just for consumption. But at the end of the day.
Or at very least, say, blackmail them. Like, we're going to put this out there unless I get X amount of money. And that's the way you raise more money for your team.
Yeah, it's like I said, it definitely commendable effort. I just don't know that the NCAA is going to do anything about it. I saw Northern Illinois head coach Thomas Hammock kind of retweeted it, and he kind of said the same thing. He said, "And I got the receipts too." So I don't know. It'd be interesting to see if what comes out of that in terms of like if they do provide receipts or information. Again, I don't expect the NCAA
from
actually
a lot of
do
things
anything.
From a lot of things that I hear, not that I've seen, but from what I hear, it's not necessarily the team reaching out. It is somebody on behalf of the team. So I could say, on behalf of North Texas, I would like you, Justice, to come and play, even though I know you're at Alabama right now. Well, technically, I'm not affiliated with the team. I'm nothing a part of the team. I can't really do anything other than like pretty much to start a conversation. So that's what it sounds like a majority of these have been.
Yeah, it's like I said, I don't expect anything to come out of it, but I just thought it was interesting. And then today, of all days, on the eve of the college football playoff quarterfinals, discussion comes out today about possibly changing how things are done in 2025. So the current system is set for this year and for 2025. 2026 is still up in the air. But of course, the one thing that they want to change, or some folks want to change, is how the seedings are done and how the buys are done. So how it was done this year and how it's going to be done next year, at least today, is the top 4 ranked conference winners get the buys. You've heard, ESPN and all the mainstream media talk about how it's not right. The top 4 teams should get the bye, not the top 4 ranked, not top 4 conference winners. So that's going to be that's kind of what the discussion was about today. Is that there are some folks that want the top 4 ranked teams to get the buys, and not just be the top 4 conference winners. And then that the whole conversation has been about seedings, and they're no doubt going to use the blowouts in the first round to kind of make their point. But I don't know. To me, it's just kind of crazy.
I think the
blowouts happen.
I think the big reason for this, to be quite frank, is when this playoff got accepted a couple years ago, we had the Pac-12, and we just kind of thought that, all right, here are these Power 5 teams, and they're going to get them. Like, there's no way something could get messed up. And then the Pac-12 goes away, and then teams, and then there weren't like your normal powerhouses doing powerhouse things all year. We're not going to talk about Georgia, but then Georgia's probably going to lose to Notre Dame, at least be my guess. And it gave these G5 schools that opportunity, in this case Boise State, that chance to get in there, and they're like, oh, well, this isn't what we wanted. Let's all vote on this. And as you mentioned on the show sheet, I don't think you mentioned it, but it requires a unanimous approval, which I don't think you'll be able to get this year, but like you said, for 2026, for next year, but then for 2026, I could see the schools going that way, because that's what they wanted for this year. And then things happened and changed, and it's not, I guess everything isn't set up the way that they thought it was supposed to be set up. And now they're angry, kind of like, take my ball and I'm going home.
Yeah, and I think it's just more than Boise. I agree, it is Boise State, but it's Arizona State too.
Yep.
And like for the life of me, I don't quite understand why anyone other than the SEC or the Big Ten would vote to approve this. That's who it's going to help. There's no doubt about it. That's who it's going to help.
And Dallas here in the YouTube comment said, we had blowouts when there was a 4-team playoff. We had blowouts when there were 2 teams, back in the BCS, So
yeah, that was my point earlier, was, like the blowout shouldn't be an excuse to make this happen, right? Because like Dallas said, there was blowouts in the 4-team, there was blowouts in the championship game. Blowouts are gonna happen. That's just you're not gonna eliminate that. I just I don't know. It's kind of, to me, it's just kind of sickening, like that ESPN has as much power and control as they seem to have over college football nowadays.
I think the coolest thing so far
their narrative.
I think the coolest thing so far about the playoffs has been the game on campus. I've been to a Major League Baseball game that's like, I was in Detroit for it was Verlander against, it was the Texas Rangers when they were really good with like Josh Hamilton and whatnot. And it was like a wild card game. Then there was an ALDS I was at. And those games, like that atmosphere was so awesome. I can't imagine what it was like to be at one of those schools, being at Notre Dame or whatnot, and experiencing that first round playoff game. I think that's probably been the best part about the whole playoff system.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, they say that they thought they had enough people to get a unanimous vote. And I don't understand it. If you're not a Big 12, a Big 10 or an SEC person, I don't understand why you'd vote for this, because that's all it's going to do. I would almost be willing to bet that every year 3 of the 4 are from those 2 conferences at a minimum. Like that's just what's going to happen. And so why would these other conferences vote for that? They're doing themselves a disservice to vote for that. I think the ACC and the Big 12 sometimes just vote with the other 2 just because they're scared of getting left behind. But I don't know. At some point, you got to
do that retribution. Like, hey, you voted. Hey, we didn't forget you voted against this 7 years ago, and we're gonna leave you behind. Like, we're not gonna invite you.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, at some point, stand up for yourself. Have a backbone, right? Like, you are already second tier. That was evidence last year. It was just, I don't know. Just protect your own interest, I think, is what I would do, right? Certainly, I don't. I know the G5 doesn't get, each G5 conference doesn't get their vote. Will get a vote, but collectively they have a vote. Why would they ever vote for that? Again, the only reason I can think is they'd be fearful that they'd say, okay, well, you didn't vote against us, so you're out now. You're not gonna get an automatic berth anymore. I don't know. Like, everybody just placates to the SEC and the Big Ten. It's kind of sickening. It's the ESPN media machine does it as well. It's I don't know. I don't enjoy it. Not the fun part of college football. But hey, let's get to our players of the week. We had quite a number of bowl games this past week, and so we have come up with our offensive and defensive players of the week.
All right. My offensive player of the week is none other than Toledo wide receiver Junior Vandeross III. Junior Vandeross III had a career-high 12 receptions for 194 yards and 1 touchdown against Pitt. The 194 yards is the 6th most ever by a Rocket and set the GameAbove Sports Bowl record for most receiving yards. Junior's touchdown put the Rockets up 13-12 midway through the second quarter. His 194 yards receiving accounted for 57.7% of the Rockets' receiving yards on the day. He would come up big once again in the 6th overtime, which proved to be the game-winning 2-point conversion attempt. Congratulations to both Junior and the Rockets on their GameAbove Sports Bowl win.
My offensive player of the week is running back Rajai Harris, East Carolina. Rajai had 17 carries for 220 yards and a touchdown, but none was bigger than his final carry, an 86-yard touchdown run, house call to seal the victory for the Pirates. He did that with ECU trailing by 1. There was a minute and I think 43 seconds or so left on 3rd and 10. He got the ball and never looked back. ECU had just gotten the ball back after the refs had made a horrible call, in my opinion, on a ECU scoop and score. So it was kind of poetic justice, if you will, for Rajai to get that touchdown and get the win for the Pirates over in-state rival NC State in the Military Bowl. Congrats to Rajai and the Pirates on the bowl victory. My defensive player of the week, sticking with Toledo, defensive tackle Darius Alexander. Darius turned in a strong performance this week with 6 tackles, 3 solos, 1 tackle for loss, 1 sack, and a thick 58-yard touchdown return on an interception. Darius's performance was instrumental in leading the Rockets to their 2nd victory over a Power 4 team this season in the GameAbove Sports Bowl, beating the Pitt Panthers in 6 overtimes. Congratulations, Darius.
And that interception return by Darius was like, he was just gliding. He was just gliding. It wasn't a rumble and bumble. Like, it looked good. It looked good out there.
Yeah, absolutely. All
right. My defensive player of the week is UConn defensive lineman Price Yates, the 6'4", 265-pound lineman. Price Yates had 6 total tackles, all of which were solo. He had 3 tackle for losses and 1 sack. His sack came with 2 minutes and 30 seconds left in the game to be that exclamation point on a great day for the Huskies. Congratulations, Price, and congratulations to the Huskies for winning 9 games on the season. That is the first time the program has won 9 games since I was in high school in 2007. I now have 2 kids, and I've been married for like 10 years. So congratulations to the UConn Huskies, and again, to Price Yates.
Before I guess we get to the preview, there was another comment from Dallas. I guess we can touch on. He's asking about how long before we see the SEC and Big Ten, and basically NCAA becoming a minor league for the NFL. Like, it's already there. Like, it's there was. This brings up an interesting point. There was some discussion earlier in the week from former JUCO coach Jason Brown about JUCO kind of being an avenue for guys to kind of come and play and not use up eligibility because of the JUCO ruling. And basically,
if you have the number 1 player, like, you could go to JUCO for a couple of years. Hey, what's my NFL grade? And then, all right, I need this money from you schools, and then maybe I just go to the NFL and I don't come to you. It was an interesting take. I don't foresee that happening with the big ticket people, but some maybe high profile, like lower 4 stars. I could see that.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what kind of happens with all that JUCO stuff. But to Dallas's point, like, I feel like at some point the SEC and the Big Ten are just going to do their own thing. Their resources dwarf everyone else, and like, they're not even playing like essentially the same game. You just look at the differences in talent, the money differences. It's essentially where we are today. It's just not, quote, formalized. I think the ACC and the Big 12 keep wanting to hang on, and they're fooling themselves, but and trying to placate the SEC and the Big 10. But I think at some point the SEC and the Big 10, kind of do their own thing, and it'll be, when that happens, it'll be interesting to see, I think, what happens with the rest of college football. At that point, will the G5 have kind of already split off and done their own thing? Will they allow the ACC and the Big 12 to join them? Probably the next, I guess, if I had to pick another, the next domino to fall to kind of move towards this evolution would be something happening with the ACC, Clemson, Florida State, in their lawsuit to try to get out of the ACC. When that happens, I think that's when you're going to see a split, a bigger, a split off between those big two. And then
I think also, depending on what happens with the Pac-12, are they able to find that 8th team? Because they have added, who was it? Gonzaga for basketball, but you got to figure out who you're going to do for football. So I think part of it is going to be what happens with that Pac-12 Mountain West type conference. Then, like you said, then the ACC, and then I think it's, when do players become employees of the university? I think there was a step towards that. I didn't hear a lot of people talking about it, but Deion Sanders had mentioned that, any players that were playing in the bowl game were going to kind of have this medical insurance that, if they got hurt.
I thought that he was talking specifically about Shadur and Travis, but
okay. I guess I didn't realize, but like, that's the first step. Like, hey, if these schools are going to pony up, or NILs or whatever it is to do that, that's a step in that direction. So I think there's like those, you talked about the next domino to fall being the ACC, which I think is probably, I don't know which one would fall first, that one or the Pac-12 domino, because they got one more year of the Mountain West and Pac-2 I believe, and then
Well, I mean,
so I think maybe the ACC would fall first, then the Pac-12, then what do players become? Are
yeah, I
they,
agree with you. I think they're going to become employees, and then there's going to be a collective bargaining agreement, and
then at
there-
that point, then I think that's when we get to Dallas's comment of that's probably when it becomes more of this minor league for the NFL.
yeah, because at that point, like the collective bargaining agreement could be, there'd be no eligibility that 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 guy. I mean, I would assume that there'll be some eligibility or number of years, but I mean they might not be the case, right? They like to Dallas's point, these might be the USFL of the future, and these be the minor leagues, the G League, if you will, of the NFL. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to kind of see how it all unfolds from my perspective in terms of what happens with the schools not in the Big Ten and the SEC. That's to me that's the interesting part of the future in terms of what will happen.
All right. Should we get into the G5 bowl games in review?
Absolutely. So the first one up is the Hawaii Bowl, San Jose State and South Florida.
Like we pretty much where we ended the previous week to where we started. We ended with Fresno State, Northern Illinois, 2 overtime game. That was pretty fun. Well, let's do like 5 overtimes. Let's start out our Tuesday game, South Florida versus San Jose State, in that Honolulu, Hawaii Bowl. We had 5 overtimes. It was USF in the first half, San Jose State in the second half. Matthew Coleman stepped up big with no Nick Nash. He had 12 receptions for 119 yards and a touchdown. Ultimately, USF wins 41-39.
Yeah, I mean, it was, like I said, it was definitely a tale of two halves. It was all South Florida in the second half, pretty much all San Jose State, and all South Florida in the first half, all San Jose State in the second half. Ended in 5 overtimes, and it was back and forth. It was pretty exciting. Like I said, Matthew Coleman stepped up in Nick Nash's absence. Be interesting to see, you see this happen every year where guys go off in the bowl game, right? And sometimes they parlay that into a Big 20 in 2025 or in the next following season. Sometimes they go back to relative obscurity in terms of production after a big bowl game. So you never know which way it's going to kind of shake out. And it's kind of early to say too, given the transfer portal. Who's to say San Jose State doesn't bring some other receivers in? But they lose Nick Nash.
They did bring in a pretty good JUCO wide receiver. Trying to remember where he was. I think TCU before he went to JUCO, and then now he's committed to San Jose State. I'm trying to remember the name off the top of my head, but I think he's like 6'4", 220. Like
so he's outside. Well, he sounds like an outside guy, right?
Yeah,
but that doesn't necessarily mean that he'll be an outside guy. They lose Lockhart as well. Justin Lockhart, I think, got injured early in the game. He only had 1 catch for 10 yards, so kind of a disappointing game for him. He got injured and he came back. But yeah, it was the Matthew Coleman show for the Spartans, but they weren't able to get it done. Bryce Archie got the start for South Florida. A lot of folks were speculating that Byron Brown would get the start, and I guess that was just the coach is kind of playing coy with his status. I've heard rumors that he's going to enter the portal, but it hasn't happened yet. But yeah, Bryce Archie got to start. No Byron Brown. Sean Atkins had a good game. Good to see Sean go out on a W for the Bulls. But yeah, good game. 5 overtime game on Christmas Eve, man. That was good.
All right. The GameAbove Sports Bowl. We had a couple players of the games from this one. Pitt Panthers versus Toledo Rockets in Detroit, Michigan. A 6 overtime thriller. This is the longest bowl in college history. So that could be your bar trivia, your useless bar trivia. Which is the longest bowl game, or where did it happen? Ford Field in Detroit, Michigan. We said last week it would be the Reed show for Pitt. He had 33 carries for 169 yards and a touchdown, 5 receptions for 15 yards. Like, we were pretty spot on with that one. Quarterback Eli Holstein was out. We had the pick 6 by friend of the podcast, safety Braden Owls. Unfortunately, I don't know if it was a broken ankle, just a twisted ankle, but he was carted off in the game. And then we had the Darius Alexander thick 6 defensive touchdown, and then Junior Vandeross's 12 for 194 and a touchdown, and then the crucial 2-point conversion for proving to be the winner. That gives the G5 a win over P4 team, 48-46.
Yeah, it was a great game. I mean, like it was like the Hawaii Bowl, 5 overtimes. They said, "Hold your beer. We're going to outdo you with 6 overtimes." Those two defensive touchdowns were absolutely critical. I feel like for Toledo, it kind of helped stop the Pitt momentum. Got Toledo back in the game. Toledo's, like I said, we're talking about the players of the week. It's Toledo's second win over a P4. They beat SEC Mississippi State early in the year. This week they get the win over ACC and Pitt, and yeah, it was a fun, entertaining game. One of the best bowl games of the season.
All right, let's move over to the 68 Ventures Bowl. Arkansas State Red Wolves versus the Bowling Green Falcons in Mobile, Alabama. Jalen Rayner passed for 221 yards and 2 touchdowns and added a rushing score. But kind of where I kind of felt like this game, like Bowling Green lost it maybe. You had the Red Wolves throw an interception. Then Bowling Green goes and they miss a 39-yard field goal. Then it's halftime. Then Terrion Stewart fumbles to open the second half. And I felt like maybe that was one of the pivot points. Later on in the game, you had a turnover on downs and a missed field goal that could have been like that other turning point. But it felt like that was that first moment where maybe Bowling Green had lost it. Zach Wallace had 99 yards and a touchdown. Wallace's score came with 3:10 left in the fourth and put the Red Wolves up 38-24. 59 of his 99 yards came on that last drive. Raheem Smith then had a big kickoff return to set the Falcons up nicely. He would end up getting the touchdowns, bringing the Falcons within 7. However, the Red Wolves were able to get the onside kick and seal it with a Wallace first down run. In the process, Harold Fannin sets the tight end yards and receptions records as Arkansas State holds on to win 38-31.
Yeah, this game, I don't know. It never really felt like to me, like it kind of felt like Arkansas State was in control the entire game. It kind of felt like Bowling Green was constantly playing catch up or trying to get that momentum. Like I said, a lot of speculation how long Harold Fannin Jr. would play in this game. If you haven't heard, he declared for the NFL draft today, which I don't think should come to a surprise for anyone. Because he only needed 11 yards to get the tight end yards record, but he needed 12 receptions to get the receptions record. And he almost had all that by halftime. He played the entire game, had a phenomenal game. It was definitely, he was a big part of their game plan. Terrion Stewart, played in the game. He had already committed to Virginia Tech. So, I think this just kind of shows what the school meant to these guys, right? Like this is a game in terms of like in the big scheme of things might not mean a whole lot, but for them it meant something to be out there on the field with their teammates. So definitely kudos to them, especially given some of the things we saw in other bowl games. Cam Ward, Miami, cough cough. That wasn't the first time that's happened. That there have been players opt out at halftime, even going back to last year. But yeah, it was a good game. It just felt like to me Arkansas State was kind of in control the entire game. But it was great to see Harold Fana Jr. get the record, greatest tight end season in history, and definitely deserving for him. He was a consensus All-American. Still kind of sore he did not win the Mackey Award.
Yeah,
But that's another subject.
Before we get on to the next matchup, hey Billy Tuesday, Happy New Year's. All right, the Lockheed Martin Armed Force Bowl, Oklahoma Sooners Navy midshipmen in Fort Worth, Texas. Blake Horvath set a Navy record with a 95-yard touchdown run. He also scored the go-ahead 6-yarder with 4:34 left to help the midshipmen. The Sooners wouldn't go down without a fight. Hawkins Jr. threw a 10-yard touchdown pass to Jake, which I assume his teammates call him Jake the Snake Roberts, as he is Jake Roberts, with 6 seconds left. They went for a 2-point conversion to win the game, but Justin Reed was able to sack Hawkins on the attempt. OU was up 14-0 after the first, but the midshipmen stayed the course, would put up 7 in the second, 7 in the third, and 7 in the fourth quarter. Talk about a perfect ending for Navy season. You get the win over Army in the Commander-in-Chief game, and then the G5 over P4 win over an SEC opponent now is Oklahoma. So another G5 over P4 victory. I know, Navy just had a great season. Overall, they, had that tough loss to Notre Dame that kind of sent their, they got ranked pretty high, if I do recall, maybe close 20s or something like that. And then, they kind of were on the downswing, but then winning that Commander-in-Chief's game and then this over an SEC opponent is a big deal.
Yeah, it was a good game. It was, I don't know. I felt like a defensive battle. It was the kind of game that Navy needs to be in to have a shot to win. I thought, that there was a penalty earlier that gave Oklahoma the opportunity to get that touchdown, which I don't know. Like, I don't necessarily know that should have been a penalty, but it was called a penalty, and they got the touchdown. And then they went for the 2-point conversion, and Navy was able to stop them. Shortly after this game, Oklahoma lost the defensive coordinator to West Virginia, which was a bit of a surprise, I guess. But yeah, I mean, great season for Navy. Win the Commander's Cup, win the bowl game over an SEC opponent. Like I said, Blake Horvath returns. He's only a junior, so they will get him back for another year. And Navy's probably got to be one of the favorites in the American next year, right? Given the success of this season, and for the most part, they return a lot of players.
And like just the transfer portal with everybody else leaving, like there's going to be some teams that actually might end up good, but they kind of falter there at the beginning of the season. Like those service academies kind of know what they have, and they're a cohesive unit usually to start the seasons. All right, let's get over to the Wasabi Fenway Bowl. We had UConn Huskies versus North Carolina Tar Heels in Boston, Massachusetts. North Carolina quarterback Jacoby Criswold was knocked out of the game. UConn controlled the game for most of the time. North Carolina had to use running back Caleb Hood as a wildcat quarterback, and true freshman Michael,
Merdinger.
He threw a 13-yard touchdown pass to John Copenhaver. Mel Brown rushed for 96 yards for UConn. Skylar Bell was 3 for 77 and a touchdown. His touchdown came on a 38-yard pass. The touchdown gave the Huskies a 10-0 lead in the first quarter, followed by a 95-yard kickoff return by Chris Culliver. However, UConn wins the game 21-20 or 27-14. Another G5 over P4 victory. UConn won 9 games for the first time since 2007, as I mentioned earlier, and beat a P4 team for the first time in 5 tries this year.
Yeah, it was. I mean, the score might have been a little bit closer than what the game actually was. Um, you know, until near the end of the game, North Carolina offense couldn't do anything. They had that kickoff return that they gave them the touchdown early, but this game, in my opinion, was UConn thoroughly dominated UNC. Once Jacoby Criswell went out, he went out like, I don't know, like I think the first series, but once he was out of the game, that was kind of it for North Carolina.
And if you look at the stats, I mean, UConn threw for the most yards. They ran for the most yards. They had the most receiving yards in terms of people. So, UConn.
Yeah, it was thorough domination by UConn. North Carolina did not. I don't know. They didn't look very motivated, especially on the offensive side. But like I said, when you lose your starting quarterback, you don't really have. They didn't have backup Connor Harrell, who's already gone. He was in the portal, and then you're left with a running back running Wildcat, which they're just going to tee off on that, right? And then
Jim Mora got an extension, right?
Yeah, and then they put in they would put Merdinger in too, and he looked like a true freshman, as you might expect. And the weird thing was, for a long time they'd put Caleb Hood in there first and second down, and then when it was 3rd and 8, then they'd go put Merdinger in there, they're kind of dictating, what the defense was going to do, and they weren't necessarily putting Merdinger in there in good situations, right? Becoming at 3rd and 8 when everyone in the world knows he's going to have to pass the ball. But great win for UConn and the Wasabi Bowl. Wasabi Fenway Bowl, and a great season for the Huskies.
And I can't for the life of me, back in the maybe early 2000s, they had that Budweiser commercial, or maybe not a Budweiser one. They would say like "What's up" when you get phone calls.
Yeah,
that's what I think of when I think of like wasabi, something like that. I don't know why. Every time I hear Wasabi Fenway Bowl or Wasabi, like that's what goes through my head. Simple-minded Luke over here.
Billy asking about UConn joining a conference. There was some talk, I feel like last summer, but I mean, I think any conference affiliation for UConn is kind of driven by basketball. I thought like back then the potential talk was like what the Big 12 or something.
Yep, it was Big 12.
And I think any obviously success in football helps them. But the primary driver, I think, for UConn getting a conference affiliation is going to be the men's and women's basketball team, because they're just so strong. But obviously, having a strong football team helps as well.
All right, let's get over to that New Mexico Bowl. We have the Louisiana Ragin' Cajuns versus TCU Horned Frogs in Albuquerque, New Mexico. That's probably about the highlight of this game, as us talking about it. Louisiana's quarterback Ben Wooldridge did play, but TCU just destroyed the Ragin' Cajuns 34-3. Wooldridge was 7 of 20 for 61 yards and had an INT. Josh Hoover passed for 4 touchdowns, 252 yards, and an interception. Former G5 wide receiver from Boise State, Eric McAllister, had 8 receptions for 87 yards and a touchdown. Louisiana was held to 209 total yards. Tough last couple games there for Louisiana. They lose 31-3 in the Sun Belt Championship, and then 34-3 in the bowl game. Just a rough go here to end the season after a tremendous year all around for the Ragin' Cajuns.
Yeah, it wasn't. I think I stopped watching at halftime. It wasn't much of a game. TCU just kind of ran roughshod all over the Ragin' Cajuns.
Well, let's get over to the Snoop Dogg Arizona Bowl. We had Miami of Ohio Redhawks versus Colorado State Rams in Tucson, Arizona. It was a close first half, 9-3 in favor of Miami. Kevin Davis had a career-high 148 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns on only 9 carries for Miami. The Rams failed to convert a 4th and 4 from the 5-yard line. And then Davis took the handoff up the middle for a 97-yard touchdown to give Miami a 26-point lead halfway through the third quarter. Jordan Brunson also chipped in 2 touchdowns for Miami. Turnovers overall killed the Rams. 4 turnovers for the Rams, 2 for Miami, but Miami wins 43-17. In the process, the kicker for Miami, Dom Tzioband, had 26 made field goals, which are tied with Sam Solomon for second most field goals made in a season. The school record was 27, held by Graham Nicholson, who you might remember transferred to Alabama this last year.
Yeah, it's turnovers were really the difference in this game. I mean, that led to, I don't know, 20 points for Miami. I know the first 3 they got 2 field goals and a touchdown out of them. And then the last one, like, you thought maybe Colorado State was going to maybe try and get back in the game, and then there was another interception. And the first interception was definitely not Braden Fowler Nicolosi's fault. It went right through the tight end's hands. It literally hit his hands. He tipped it up in the air, and then Miami got the interception. But it was, turnovers were the tail of the game. Brett Gabbert goes out his final game as a Miami Redhawk as a winner. And I don't know. It was just a cool game to watch. I think it's the only bowl game not on an ESPN network, right? So meaning not on ESPN. Well, minus the playoffs, but it wasn't on ESPN. It wasn't on ABC. It was on the CW. Snoop Dogg was on both sidelines, kind of like just interacting with the players on both teams. I don't know. It was just a fun game all around. You saw Miami head coach get the bling there at the end. It was just a fun game all around. The inaugural Snoop Dogg Arizona Bowl. This used to be the Barstool Sports Bowl, but now it's the Snoop Dogg Arizona Bowl presented by Gin and Juice. But it was a cool game all around.
All right, let's move over to the Go Bowling Military Bowl. And Justice, why don't you take it away here?
Man, I know Luke always gives me a hard time like I'm an East Carolina fan, but man, this game, it was a pretty exciting game. It was, it was all East Carolina early. They had a 20-7 lead heading into the fourth quarter, and it was almost a disastrous fourth quarter for the Pirates. They blew that lead. They were down 21-20. NC State quarterback Cedric Bailey was running the ball, and in the process of stopping him, they stripped the ball from him, and his fumble, scoop and score, which would have put East Carolina up, but the refs and their infinite wisdom said that forward progress was stopped, even though you never heard a whistle get blown. To me, it was. I personally think it was a fumble and a scoop and score. It wasn't like they were holding them for a really long period of time before they stripped them. And again, there was never a whistle blown either that you could hear. And so I think I texted Luke and I was like, this is absolutely BS. East Carolina just got totally hosed by the refs. And I still think they did. But anyway, North Carolina State had to punt the ball. It was a deep punt. It was on East Carolina 10-yard line. They didn't do anything the first 2 times of the ball. So it's 3rd and 10, a minute 43 left. They hand the ball off to Rajay Harris, and he carries it to the house. It I don't know. Poetic justice is the best way to describe it. And I think when I sent the tweet out, that's what I said. But and Rajay Harris, he's one of the best players at East Carolina. It's his final game. And he's battled injuries throughout his career. He had a great season, a great final season this year. So just kind of fitting for Rajay to get that touchdown. And then NC State fans and players will constantly say this is not a rivalry. This game completely said otherwise. It was a great game. It was kind of unfortunate at the very end there. It was kind of marred by some fights breaking out. At the time, I didn't see how it started, but I guess East Carolina wide receiver Yannick Smith took one of the towels from one of the players, had it sticking out of his pants, NC State player, and that player took offense to that, and then it just started kind of a melee. In the melee, a referee got messed up pretty bad.
Maybe should have been our player of the week.
Yeah,
maybe that's
he was. I mean, they stopped. They had to stop the game anyway to kind of figure out what they were going to do. But the East Carolina athletic trainers were kind of dealing with him for a good, I don't know, it seemed like 5 minutes or so. He got cut right underneath the eye. A player got pushed into him, and that player's face mask, I think, is what hit the referee. He had a pretty nice gash and blood all over his face. At the end of the day, 8 players got ejected. I think it was 5 NC State players and 3 East Carolina players. Kind of put a sour note on what was an otherwise a really great, fun, and exciting game. But I think the most important thing to point out is these two teams play again week 1. We talked about that when we previewed it last week. But yeah, so it should make for a spirited game week 1 of the 2025 season when these two teams get together once again.
All right. Let's move over to the Radiance Technology Independence Bowl, Louisiana Tech Bulldogs versus Army Black Knights in Shreveport, Louisiana. Army was up 21-3 at the half, will go up and on to win this 27-6. True Edwards for Louisiana Tech had 8 receptions for 92 yards. Army quarterback Bryson Daly ran for 127 yards and 3 touchdowns in the win. Those 3 touchdowns broke the FBS record for touchdowns by a quarterback in a season with 32. Hayden Reed had 20 carries for 114 yards and a touchdown for Army. The win set an Army single-season win record with a 12-2 record. They also set an Independence Bowl record for the longest drive in terms of play with 21. So there's your second useless bar knowledge that you'll ever need to know is what is the who owns the longest drive in terms of play in the Independence Bowl. That's going to be Army, 21 plays. I think it was 75 yards or 78 yards, something like that. But there you go.
Yeah, this wasn't much of a game. And I don't know, I didn't expect it to be Louisiana Tech kind of getting a short notice with Marshall pulling out of the bowl. It kind of, we talked about it last week, but it kind of ruined a dream scenario for us anyway, and having all the G5 champions play each other, because it would have been the champion of the Sun Belt, Marshall, versus the American champion in Army. But the transfer portal kind of took that away from us, unfortunately. Would have loved to have seen that game, especially if both teams could have been at full strength. Would have been like, a little mini G5 playoffs, if you will. If you recall earlier in bowl season, we had the MAC champion Ohio Bobcats against Conference USA champion Jacksonville State. So we had all the G5 champs playing each other, and then Marshall had to kind of go and ruin it for us, or the transfer portal ruin it for us, and not get that. But yeah, kudos to Louisiana Tech for stepping up, right? They were kind of put in a bad situation, but hey, kudos to those guys that are competing, showing up. They never quit in the game, and it's kind of a good way for them, right? So some seniors who did not necessarily, you thought they were going to get to play another game, got another opportunity to go out there on the field, and so kudos to them and that coaching staff for having that team ready and prepared to play in this bowl game against Army. that's going to kind of do it for our review of the past bowl games. Yes, yeah, Billy. DeSormeau for Louisiana did get an extension after the Raging Cajuns lost there against TCU, but that's just one of two losses for the G5 in the bowl game. I think the record right now is 6-2, 6 wins for the G5, 2 losses against P4. So yeah, the G5 has really been taking the P4 behind the woodshed, so to speak, in the bowl game so far. And there's really there's at least one more. Hopefully, there's like 3 more opportunities for the G5 to get a win over the P4, and with that, we'll kind of roll right into that next opportunity for the G5 to kind of get a huge win here New Year's Eve night, tomorrow night, in the college football playoffs.
Yeah, and before we get too into this, the Hawkeyes just had a or a kickoff return for a touchdown. So go Hawks. All right. Let's get this going here. We have the VRBO Fiesta Bowl, number 6, Penn State Nittany Lions versus number 3, Boise State Broncos in Glendale, Arizona, New Year's Eve, Tuesday night, tomorrow night, tonight, whenever you're listening to us, Tuesday night, 7:30 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. The Broncos, like the Fiesta Bowl, you can remember back to that. I hope they do a Statue of Liberty or a hook and ladder or some sort of play if they can. Penn State, I'm not sure on any injuries that they might have, opt-outs. Obviously, their backup quarterback that they had some packages for, is it Bo Preblula? He is committed, I think, to Mizzou, I believe. Yeah. So he will not be there. In injuries for Boise State, true freshman running back Sire Gaines, he hasn't played a snap since he was injured back in like week 2, week 1, something like that. But he's been practicing this week, so we might see a little bit of Cyrus Gaines, maybe. And then safety Alexander Tubner, he's healthy. Not sure if he will be on a snap count or not. Remember, he was a critical part of the back end of this defense here for Boise State. Opt-outs and transfers, there's only one as of now. Quarterback Malachi Nelson, he was welcome to stay, but he's been out visiting other schools during their prep. So hard to believe he will be there. I believe he committed to UTEP.
I don't think he committed. He visited UTEP. I don't think he committed there.
Okay. Maybe it's just that. So he's out, so I doubt he will be there. But other than that, who are the Nittany Lions that you need to know about?
Well, I think we'll start with maybe the Boise State offense and Penn State defense, and we'll come back to this slide. But when Boise State has the ball, you need to know their quarterback Maddox Madsen. He's a gamer, man. He can run the ball. He's had games where he's won games with his passing ability. But if we're going to talk about the Boise State offense, it kind of starts with running back Ashton Jeanty, one of the best running backs in college football history. Should have been the Heisman winner. I mean, I hate to belabor the point, but the Heisman winner sure had an awesome performance. That him and his team had an awesome performance, getting their butts kicked the other night. I mean, I think he had 3 catches for 101 yards. Yeah, he had a good game from that perspective. But if you saw his effort on that L.J. Martin touchdown run, and you said, "Oh yeah, that's the Heisman." He's a great defensive back. I don't know what to say, but anyway, getting off track. But yeah, Ashton Jeanty, one of the best players in college football, one of the best players in college football history. Could potentially break the all-time rushing record, Barry Sanders rushing record in this game. I think he's at 185 185 yards. I think he needs something around there, 184 maybe. When they're not handing the ball off to Ashton Janty, you got wide receivers Cam Camper and Latrell Caples. Latrell Caples has stepped up big in big games for Boise State, so look for him to possibly be someone that kind of steps up and helps this passing game. And then tight end Matt Lauder, he seems to kind of be a favorite target, especially in the red zone. We saw him used a lot in the both victories over UNLV. He's kind of a safety blanket there for quarterback Maddox Madsen. When Boise State has the ball and you're looking at the Penn State defense, they're led by probably first-round draft pick defensive end Abdul Carter, one of the best defensive end edges in all of college football this past season. He's also joined by Danny Dennis Sutton, who's also a great edge or defensive end for the Nittany Lions. At linebacker, they got Kobe King, their leading tackler at linebacker. Also a young guy, Antonio Rojas, who had a good game against SMU. I believe he had I don't know if it was a pick six, but I know he had an interception. I can't remember if he returned that for a touchdown. And then on the back end, they're led by the leading tackler on the year overall, safety Jalen Reed and safeties Zakee Wheatley. Penn State always has a great defense year in and year out, and kind of if you're watching us on YouTube, you see the graphic, the by the numbers graphic. We have the Boise State offense, the Penn State defense, and it's strength on strength, right? The strength of the Boise State offense is the running game, right? They're ranked 5th in the nation, 250.54 yards per game. And then you look at Penn State, and where's the strength of their defense? The rushing defense, ranked 7th in the country, only allowing 100.36 yards per game. And then third down conversions, right? Another strength on strength. The Boise State offense is ranked 8th nationwide in terms of third down conversions, where the Penn State defense is ranked 26. So it's really going to be a battle of the strengths here in terms of when Boise State has the ball. It's going to be best on best, and it's going to be interesting to kind of see. No one's really been able to. I mean, when we say contain Ashton Janty, we're talking 110 yards, 125 yards, which kind of seems ridiculous when you're talking about like someone containing him. But that's kind of what containing him has looked like thus far this season. And when Max Madsen's had to step up, he's done it. And so it's just going to be interesting to kind of see how this plays out with some strength on strength when Boise State has the ball. Got any thoughts, Luke, before we move over to the Penn State offense?
It's just going to be, coming out of third down, that it's third down and manageable. For Boise State, can't get in that third and long situation, because I just don't think that's where Maddox Madsen excels. It's hard for any team, not just Maddox, but as long as you keep Ashton as a possible weapon for each down, that's what you need to do. Get it into third and manageable, get those 3rd and 3s, 3rd and 4s, even a 3rd and 5 isn't awful, but you can see that they're dang near about 50% on their third down conversion. So it's going to come down to who can convert on third downs and who can win the turnover battle. And then I really like this Boise State defensive line. I really do. So we'll see how they are able to attack the Penn State offensive line. And then we'll see that Penn State defense is good. So we will see how the offensive line and like I said, maybe a hook and ladder, maybe a Statue of Liberty here and there. That would be fun for reminiscence standpoint. Hopefully they get to a point where they can do it for fun, not out of necessity. But maybe there's an overtime and they pull out the Statue of Liberty or something. So, but I think it's going to come down to the third down conversion. That's what I'm going to really be focusing on.
One thing I think is kind of underrated of Maddox Madsen's game is he doesn't take sacks. He's pretty he's pretty good about getting rid of the ball, getting out of the pocket, running if he needs to. He just doesn't take sacks, and I think that's going to be critical for Boise State in this game, like you said, to not get down in the not to get in those terrible situations, those third and long situations.
And honestly, I'm not too well versed in Nittany Lion special teams, but I feel pretty confident that Boise State's special teams, kicking, punting, like
pretty good.
They are going to play a pivotal role, because obviously they're not going to score a touchdown every single time. But I think Boise State can punt well, can change those field positions, and they've got an incredible field goal kicker that I think could help them out in this game.
All right, well, let's look at the Penn State offense. So when Penn State has the ball on offense, they're led by quarterback Drew Allar, who's already announced he's to this point anyway. He said he's returning to school next year. That he's not going off the NFL draft. And then they have a pair of running backs that are just, they're not Ashton Jeanty, but they're pretty daggone good running backs. And Katron Allen and Nicholas Singleton. Katron Allen's kind of the bruiser, the between the tackles, the tough yards guy, whereas Singleton is more of the the flashier home run threat in terms of making something happen with less touches kind of guy. He doesn't he's not necessarily a bruiser. He's more of your speed guy per se. When they're throwing the ball, look to tight end Tyler Warren. He was the Mackey Award winner this year. He's their number one target in terms of the passing game. They also look for wide receiver Harrison Wallace III. But I mean, these teams, I think what these teams want to do on offense are very similar. They both kind of want to run the ball a lot. They're not going to throw the ball all over the field. So two very similar offenses. When Penn State's on offense and Boise State's on defense, look for defensive ends Ahmed Hassanian and Jaden Virgin Morgan. Those are the guys kind of getting the pressure, causing the havoc up front for the Broncos. And then, like you said, like Luke said, their safeties have been phenomenal all year. You got Ty Benefield, Seye Aladipo, and Alexander Tubner. Those guys have all three of them have stepped up at different points in the year. They're great in run support. They're great in coverage. They do it all for this Boise State defense. Speaking of coverage, they got two pretty good corners in Jeremiah Irby and Amarian McCoy. It's going to be interesting to kind of see who they match up with Warren. My gut says it's going to be Oladipo, but we'll see how they kind of handle that matchup. If you're watching us again on YouTube, we have the by the numbers, we have the Penn State offense and the Boise State defense, and it's kind of a mirror image of what we saw when we talked about Boise State offense and Penn State defense. It's strength on strength. Penn State's strength offensively is rushing the ball, ranked 19th in the country, allowing or rushing for 201.21 yards per game, and the strength of the Boise State defense is the rushing defense, ranked 23rd, only giving up 115.08 yards per game. So these two teams are just eerily similar in terms of what they want to do, what the strengths are of their offense and the strengths of their defense. Should make for a really good game. Hopefully, obviously we're all pulling for Boise State. I think I had Boise State in the finals against Oregon. That's kind of what I was rooting for. The spread is Penn State by 11 with an over/under of 53.5. If it was me, I'm taking Boise all day and 11 points. Boise might not win the game, but I don't think they lose the game by double digits. That's just my personal opinion. What do you think, Luke?
Yeah, I feel like I like taking the under. I like taking a closer game. I think what we'll get is maybe the two teams filling each other out for that first quarter. Maybe not a lot going on in that first quarter. More so it's field position. And then I think maybe midway through that second quarter is when the fireworks start. But then how big of a fireworks is it? Is it just a play or two, or is it like both teams open up the dam? But I feel like that first quarter is just going to be out, these teams feeling each other out. So I like the under for the entire game, and I like Boise State to cover. And honestly, what it comes down to, I think, is can Penn State stop Ashton Jeanty? We've been talking about it all season. Ashton Jeanty last year was utilized in the passing game and like nothing. He's been like nothing this year in the passing game. I hope they unleash him in the passing game, because that will be that dynamic that they add that Penn State hasn't seen this year on tape. Maybe they're probably studying last year's tape and whatnot, but like we've interviewed other people who talk about how slippery he is when he's got the ball and how dynamic he is when he has the ball in his hand out of the backfield. So that is what I hope to see Boise State do. So can Penn State stop Ashton Jeanty? Hopefully Boise State passes the ball to him a little bit more. And then what does Boise State do to stop Warren? I think if you can stop Warren, I think you can kind of stop everything else. I mean, Nick Singleton out of the backfield. Honestly, I hope Boise State utilizes Ashton Jeanty like Penn State utilizes Nicholas Singleton. I mean, he gets the ball out of the backfield, and I don't think he's as dynamic with the ball in his hand as Ashton Jeanty is, but that's what I'm kind of hoping for. So I think it comes down to those things.
No, that's a good point about Ashton, using Ashton in the passing game. Like you said, we interviewed two NFL players, defensive players, Bo Richter and Trey Taylor, who are playing on Sundays now. And when we interviewed them and we talked about Ashton Jeanty, like they both said, like the remarkable thing is like they said was, it's that kind of surprised them was like they said, well, he's obviously a good running back, but he's probably even a better receiver. And like you said, the Broncos just really haven't utilized him that way this year like they did in years past. So yeah, I agree that's something definitely to look out for in this game, and hopefully the Broncos can get a win, and Ashton Jeanty can get the record as well on the way to this Fiesta Bowl win, and we'll see the Broncos in the semifinals.
All right. Well, let's move over to the First Responder Bowl. We've got Texas State Bobcats versus North Texas, Mean Green in Dallas, Texas, on Friday, January 3rd, 4 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. Injuries, opt-out portal news, Texas State Bobcats. Injuries, none to talk about at this moment. Opt-outs and transfers. Guys in the portal will not play for Texas State. So that means friend of the show, running back Ishmael Mahdi, wide receiver Cole Wilson, defensive lineman Ben Bell, which will be a big hit. I mean, they've played the season without him in portions, but when he does play, he's an impact player. And then offensive lineman Alex Harkey. We're looking at North Texas, Mean Green, injuries, none to speak about at the moment. Opt-outs and transfers. Quarterback Chandler Morris will not play. Wide receiver DT Sheffield will not play. Offensive lineman Tyler Mercer and tight end Oscar Hammond will not play in this game.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting game.
And we'll see if McLeod plays. There's been some talks that he might not get a full complement of snaps, and he might play just a little bit. He might not play at all. So that will be something interesting to watch.
Well, that's a good segue. So the Texas State Bobcats to know when they're on offense, quarterback Jordan McLeod, it's been reported that he's going to play, but he's probably not going to play the whole game. Jordan McLeod was the 2023 Sun Belt Player of the Year, transferred to Texas State. He's been injured off and on. Hasn't had the season I think many had envisioned. I think he has professional hopes. So I think the word is he's going to play in this game. to some degree to try to kind of show off his talents. When McLeod comes out, it's going to be freshman Brad Roberts. Brad Roberts is a much more prolific runner than McLeod. Not nearly as good of a passer as McLeod. So the offense is probably going to look very different depending on who's at quarterback, right? If McLeod's in there, you're going to see a lot more passing the ball. Whereas if Brad Roberts is in there, he's going to be looking to run the ball a bit more. They do lose Ismail Mahdi, which I think takes away some of the explosiveness from this rushing attack. But they've been a committee all year. Running backs, Lincoln Pear, Torrance Burgess Jr., probably the ones that are going to get the majority of the carries, or get more carries with Ismail not playing in this game. But I think that the big difference for them is they'll lack some explosiveness with no Ismail Mahdi. Wide receivers, I mean, Cole Wilson won't be there, but I don't expect that to have a huge impact. You still got Joey Hobart, still got Jaden Williams. Chris Don probably is the one that'll step up, I would expect, in Cole Wilson's absence. And as long as Jordan McLeod plays, look for these receivers to have some impact on the game. When North Texas is on defense, they're led by linebackers Jalen Smith and Jordan Brown. They are their leading tacklers. Also, look for safety Jaden Hill and cornerback Brian Nelson II in that defensive backfield to kind of try to keep tabs on that Texas State offense and those receivers. And if you're looking for the guys that are going to cause the havoc up front for North Texas, that's defensive tackle Roderick Brown and defensive end Braylon Charles. Those are the guys getting pressure on the opposing offense. Now to the interesting part of the game when North Texas is on offense. So Chandler Morris is gone. He won't be playing in the game. He's off to Virginia. And so quarterback Drew Mestemaker is going to get the start. He's played sparingly so far this season as the backup. The other interesting thing is he's still listed on the depth chart, but quarterback Cash McCullum, who was listed second on the depth chart, also recently entered the portal. My assumption is he'll be there as the backup, but maybe that's changed. I don't know. So it's going to be interesting to see what Drew Mestemaker can do in this offense. Like I said, he's played very sparingly so far this season. Chandler Morris, was able to keep this offense going with his arm. It'll be interesting to see if Mestemaker can kind of do the same thing, given his limited experience. Running back Shane Porter had a huge game. I don't know. I forget who they played, but it was either the last week or the week before, one of the last 2 weeks of the regular season. He had 176 yards and 3 touchdowns. So I would imagine they might rely on this running game a bit more than we are used to, given the inexperience at quarterback. At wide receiver, they do lose DT Sheffield. But I don't know that that's going to impact them too much. They still have Landon Sides. They have Damon Ward, and then electrifying true freshman Miles Coleman. So I'm excited to see Coleman get some more reps and see if he can what he can do with those reps. He's someone that we talked about last spring. He's a small guy, but he's fast. He's someone you definitely want to get the ball in his hands in space and kind of see what he can do. So just going to be really interested to see how this North Texas offense operates with a Drew Mestemaker at quarterback. When Texas State is on defense, they are led by linebacker James Neal, and then defensive backs Jordan Polk and Ryan Nolan. And if you're looking for the guys that are going to get pressure, cause issues for Drew Mestemaker, you're looking at the two edges and Khalil Alexander and Jolason Landry. Those are the guys that they're going to cause problems for Drew Mestemaker. So currently I believe the current spread in this game is Texas State is favored. Texas State's favored by 13.5 with an over/under of 60.5. I don't know. The over/under seems kind of high given the quarterback situation at North Texas. I don't hate the spread. I think Texas State wins this game. There is one thing I'd like to see. I'd like to see in the books, and that's how much beer is consumed in this game. Because I'm pretty sure Texas State played in this bowl game a year ago, and they drank them out of beer before halftime. I'm pretty sure that's what happened. Yep. And so hopefully the folks at the First Responder Bowl have prepared accordingly for all the beer consumption in this game. But yeah, getting back to the game, I like Texas State in this game. I just don't know enough about Mestermaker to be excited about him in this offense, and I just don't know that they're going to be able to keep pace. Now, if Jordan McLeod only plays one series, it's probably going to be a tighter game than a 2-touchdown spread. I think what's going to be critical is how much Jordan McLeod plays in this game. My gut says he plays at least a half, but that's just pure speculation on my part.
Yeah, I'm gonna lean Texas State, and honestly, it doesn't matter how much, in my opinion, McLeod plays or not. Brad Roberts will be fine to lead this team. It'll almost be like if you've never. It's almost like watching a service academy type thing. Like not exactly that triple option, but like he's just gonna. I guess how I'd put it is more of like Sam Houston, or I'm trying to say Jacksonville State. Yeah, it would be something like that where you're gonna get the ball in the shotgun and he's just pretty much going and he'll pass it a couple times. I like Texas State in this one. Let's move over to the Bahamas Bowl. It's Buffalo Bulls versus the Liberty Flames in the Bahamas, Saturday, January 4th, 11 a.m. Eastern on ESPN2. Injuries, opt-outs, portal guys, Buffalo Bulls, no injuries to note. Opt-outs and portals. There are 3 guys in the portal that they are on the depth chart for Buffalo, and they are allowed to play. Now, whether they will play or not, not sure, but assuming since they're on the depth chart, we will see them play. There's a long snapper. I'm forgetting his name. Kicker, Upton Beliphant, and then wide receiver, Javian Cuff for Buffalo. Liberty Flames, injuries, none to note. Opt-outs, portal guys will not play. And let me take a deep breath before I get to all of these names for Liberty. Quarterback, Kane Salter. Running back, Quentin Cooley. Running back, James Jointer. Running back, Victor Venn. Wide receiver, Kalen Austin. Wide receiver, Markel Fortenberry. Wide receiver, Cesar Carrasco. Offensive lineman, Jordan White. Offensive lineman, Xavier Gray. Offensive lineman, Jordan Hall. Offensive lineman, Isaiah Taylor. Defensive lineman, Eliot Nyari. Defensive lineman, Rod Daniels. Defensive lineman, Marquise Lansfield. Linebacker, Jerome Jolly. Cornerback, Dominique Hall. Defensive back, Marquise Bell. Safety, Jabin Ford. And kicker, Nick Brown. So a lot of guys out for Liberty.
A lot of offensive guys, right? I mean, I think the big things for Liberty is no Caden Salter, no Quentin Cooley, and then offensive line. I think that's gonna, losing some starters and some depth on that offensive line. So let's talk about who.
Well, so before we get too far into it, over under for sacks in the game, Justice, for this Buffalo Bulls team. If you haven't been paying attention, we've got the Bash Bros. Justice, we'll talk about the Bash Bros here. But like, how many sacks, how many tackles do you think those two combine for in this game, given the offensive line?
I don't know about tackles, because I don't know if Liberty's going to be on the field that much and be that effective. But sacks, I think I'd put it like 4.5. If I was going to set, set the line, I'd probably put it at 4.5.
And are we just talking about overall or for the Bash Bros?
I think overall 4.5.
Overall. Okay, because that,
I mean, they could get that themselves easily. I think if I was going to set the line, I'd set it at 4.5 if I was an odds maker.
People are looking for an off or a defensive just juggernaut to watch. Buffalo will be fun to watch.
Yeah.
All right, who are the Buffalo Bulls that we need to know about?
Let's start with the Liberty Flames on offense.
Okay.
So that's where all the question marks are, right? They lose their starting running back, they lose their starting quarterback. So it looks like Ryan Berger is going to get to start. He was in concussion protocol earlier this month, but it looks like by all accounts he's kind of cleared that protocol. He will get the start, and that's huge for Liberty because their backups are Nate Hampton, who's in the transfer portal, and I think he's already committed somewhere, but he's agreed to stay on and at least be the backup in this game. And then a freshman that they're really excited about, Jaden Bradford. He needs to have surgery, but he's put off surgery just so he's available in this game. So the fact that Ryan Berger, is available and playing, he was their backup all year. If you're not familiar with Berger, he is a transfer from App State. He actually won the App State job in 2023, heading into the season, beating out Joey Aguilar. He got hurt, I think, in game 1, got injured, missed the rest of the year. Joey Aguilar took over, and kind of the rest was history. But Ryan Berger is a capable quarterback. So I'm not too concerned about him being gone. I think the bigger concern for Liberty on offense is the offensive line. Running back, they do lose Quentin Cooley, but they got Billy Lucas. They got Vaughn Blue. Look for Billy Lucas to kind of fill in for Quentin Cooley's role, and he's done it throughout the year. When Cooley's been banged up, he's a good running back in his own right. When Liberty's throwing the ball, you're looking at wide receivers Trayon Sibley and Elijah Canyon as their top pass catchers. I think it's all going to hinge on how this offensive line is able to block and keep
I think Vaughn Blue could get a lot of run. He's he was hurt earlier in the season, but he's been he was going to be their passing down type back. So I think he could get some run in this game as well.
It's the key to this game is going to be that Liberty offensive line and holding this Buffalo defense at bay. Like Luke said, they're a pretty talented defense. They are led by the Bash brothers, Sean Dolak and Red Murdoch, the top 2 tacklers in all of college football, and they're both on the same team. Both super talented guys. Sean Dolak should have at the very least should have been a Butkus Award finalist, but that's something that we've talked about ad nauseum at this point. Red Murdoch is a great runner, a great linebacker as well. On the back end of that defense, they're led by safety Marcus Fuqua and cornerback Marquise Cooper, and then the guys up front that in addition, both Murdoch and Dolak will rush the passer. But the 2 defensive ends, or the edges, if you will, for Buffalo have had great seasons in the sack department as well. And that's Kobe Stewart and Deion Crawford. Look for the 2 of them as well as the Bash brothers to kind of eat in this game. I expect them to put a lot of pressure on Ryan Berger, given his inexperience in this offense and this kind of makeshift offensive line, if you will. When Buffalo is on offense, they're really kind of a 3-headed monster on the offensive side of the ball. You got quarterback CJ Agbana, who's a dual threat, can beat you with his arm, beat you with his legs. They got running back Aljay Henderson, who really came on strong at the end of the year, the second half of the season. I look for him to have a huge game in this game against Liberty. And when CJ's throwing the ball, his number one target was a walk-on. He got offered a scholarship during the season, and that's wide receiver Victor Snow. He's really the man that kind of gets things going for the Bulls through the air. On defense, probably the biggest loss for Liberty will be linebacker Jerome Jolly, who's in the portal, and he will not be playing. But the guys that are there, they're led by linebackers Joseph Carter, and look for Taylor Jackson to kind of step up in Jerome Jolly's absence there at linebacker. They got two talented defensive ends on Liberty, TJ Bush and CJ Bazile. Those are the guys creating that pressure. Those are the guys going to be responsible for trying to help contain CJ Agbana. And then the defensive backfield, probably their best player for the Flames is Quentin Reese. The current spread in this game is Buffalo -2.5. And
give me more.
I like that all day, man. Give me Buffalo. I think they win the game by 6, 7, somewhere around there. The over-unders 50.5. I think the offensive line for Liberty is going to be a problem against this Bulls defense.
It's going to be the Bash Brothers for the Buffalo Bulls in the Bahama Bowl. It's going to be a lot of B's.
Yes. Buffalo Bowl, Bash Brother, Bahama Bowl. And I think all those, all those B's at the end of the day, what I think they mean victory for the Bulls.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, before we end, that's kind of the end of the preview. Billy had a question, and I wanted to talk about a little bit. He's asked if we're going to do a review of the G5 coaching hires. Yes, we will. I think if you didn't catch us last off season, we kind of run through team by team. We run through the transfer portal, who left, who's coming, and then we also talk about the coaching changes. And then we also kind of we didn't do this for everybody, but we selected the ones that are most interesting to us and did some more in-depth analysis in terms of what to expect with those coaching changes. So, yes, in this offseason, we will most definitely do a review of those coaching hires in addition to the transfer portal comings and goings. And then we'll probably start that in January once things kind of settle down and we have a better idea. And then at some point we'll also kind of do a deep dive on we don't do it for all the coaching changes, but we will select the ones that we feel are the most interesting to us, and kind of do a deep dive in terms of what will this new offense look like, or what perhaps maybe changes we might see on defense. When we talk about coaching changes, in terms of when we go team by team, we're really focusing on head coach, offensive coordinator, and defensive coordinator, and then we'll give you the rundown for all the players, the players of interest, the kind of the big time players in terms of transfer portal changes.
We haven't really talked about what we're going to do next week. Obviously, we'll highlight the 3 bowl games and then preview Boise State next week if they're able to pull out the win against Penn State. Otherwise, I think, just chopping it up quick here, I don't think it'll be a super long episode next week. And then I think after that, then we're going to kind of get into each conference and going, I think we'll probably start that series pretty soon.
We'll talk about our All-American team. We tweeted out our All-Conference teams. We've tweeted out our All-American teams. Those were done in early December, but we haven't talked about them yet. So we might come back and talk about some of those as well.
But yeah, and then it'll be before too long. We'll start our Worker Bee series. So we'll be talking to all the beat reporters. I feel like we just got done with that, and now we're going to start it up again. It's a lot of work. But you guys really liked it, and we're here for you guys and here to get that information out there. But why don't you come back and join us next week as we discuss what happened in the G5 bowl games, as well as bring you up to date on all the latest news and happenings in the world of G5 college football. If you're watching us on YouTube, please hit that like and subscribe button. If you're watching us on X, please give us a retweet, a like, and a follow. If you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please subscribe and leave those 5-star rating and reviews. Thank you all for your support. Until the next time, we are the G5 Hive.